We're ready to start the introductory video. I'd like to call the April 16th, 2024 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order. Thank you all for being with us this evening. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to read the ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the code of ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and transparent manner. Is there an item on the agenda, the outcome of which would have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on all matters voted on by the commissioners at our meeting this evening. Okay, we come to the consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any questions about any items on the consent agenda? Do any members of the public have any questions about any items on our consent agenda? All right, at our briefing meeting this afternoon, we did agree by consensus to add to the consent agenda approval for the commission chair to sign a letter of support for Advent's certificate of need for the new acute care medical facility in northern Buncombe County. So if there's no objection to that, we will add that to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with that item included and to follow the remainder of the agenda as published?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We now come to public comment. And there's a list of folks that have signed up to speak during public comment. I'm going to go through the list of everyone that signed up. And when you come up to speak, you're going to have 3 minutes. You'll get an orange light when there's about 30 seconds left and a red light when your time's up, and there'll be a noise that goes off. We do ask folks to discontinue your comments once your time's up because we want to give everyone the same amount of time. And once I go through the list of the folks that have signed up, if there's anybody else that wants to speak during public comment, there'll be an opportunity to do so. All right, the first person, and I also apologize for anybody if I mispronounce your name. First person that signed up is Chuck Stiles. Good evening. And Mr. Stiles, just come over to the microphone over here, please, so we can hear you well.
Good afternoon, and really appreciate y'all letting me come in and speak today. I'm Chuck Stiles. I'm the director of the Teamsters Solid Waste Division out of Washington, D.C. I'm actually an old Murphy, North Carolina boy, and I still got a place over, and y'all can hear the way I talk. I'm not a D.C. guy by any means. I'm here today. I've been trying to track where Buncombe County is actually headed with their solid waste service in the county. I know it's up and down. I'm very familiar with the two bidders that have been nailed down. Neither one of them are union, which that's fine. But the problem I have is with FCC Environmental that is currently, I think you're proposing to be the new hauler. They have a horrible record with labor. They, at the stand, I've got a little handout. I can get it to you if you need. But they are, I just want to put this in your ear. Right now, we're currently bargaining with them in Dallas, Texas, the first unionized facility in the United States since they came from Europe and came over, owned by a Mexican billionaire, Carlos Slim. They have been charged with failure, underpaying workers, everything else, overtime charges against them. I just want to remind the county, being cheap, getting the lowest bidder does not necessarily mean you're getting the best bidder. I don't have a dog in a fight whether Waste Pro keeps this or FCC gets it, other than FCC, the way they treat people. If they will break federal law like they have in Texas against these workers, then, as I would say, where I'm from, why you want to buy a pig in a poke? You know the pig you got, but you got one FCC, they're trying to sell you a pig in a poke. They're not everything they lead up to be. I would ask this. I would check with both of these, actually, Waste Pro and FCC. I would see how many of their workers are on SNAP, how many are on WIC, how many are on public health care, how many are in subsidized housing. Just because they're the low bidder, it's kind of like the old Fram oil filter. You get what you pay for. You're going to pay me sooner or later. That's all I'm saying. If you cannot trust this company to be at a bargaining table where they're federally mandated to, and then they continue to break federal law, I'm just asking you to take that into consideration. Maybe look a year down the road, look at something. To be quite honest with you guys, I've been around this industry 20-something years, a 40-year Teamster. You get what you pay for. Both of these companies are bottom feeders. They're really bottom feeders. I see my time is running out. I want to say thank you, but I would put this FCC on the back burner and do a little bit more insight on this. And thank y'all so much for having me.
Okay, all right, thank you. Next is Matt Allen.
Good evening. My name is Matt Allen. I'm the Director of Professional Development and Government Affairs at the Land of the Sky Association of Realtors, LOTSAR for short. And first, quickly, it's not on your agenda, but it likely will be soon, so I'd be remiss to not briefly reiterate our association's position on short-term rentals, how they benefit our local economy and local workers. As an association, we're on board with reasonable regulations, but we're not on board with a ban on a fundamental private property right to rent one's property on a short-term basis, and that's what this proposal would do. So I would submit that once this comes to this governing board, table the discussion, move on to Module 2 issues in the comprehensive plan. I think that would be serve your time much better than dealing with bans on short-term rentals. All that said, I actually want to focus my comments on one of your agenda items, which is fair housing. At the national, state, and local level, realtors are committed to providing equal professional service without regard to race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity of any prospective client, customer, or of the residents of any community. And on a local level, every year for Fair Housing Month, which is April, LOTSAR holds an event. A couple of years ago, we hosted Bill Dedman. He was the lead investigator for an expose called Long Island Divided that revealed rampant racial steering being perpetrated on Long Island by real estate professionals. We've also recently hosted Richard Rothstein, the author of Color of Law, a book that outlines in sobering detail the history of housing discrimination and segregation and how it's been perpetrated and enabled at all levels of government. I'm very excited to say that this year's event, which is this Thursday, we're going to not only have Richard Rothstein join us via Zoom, but his daughter Leah, who he recently co-authored a book with, is going to join us in person. That book's called Just Action, and it outlines all the ways that local government, trade groups, citizens can begin to help undo the harms caused by past housing discrimination. We're also going to hear a presentation by Tori White Garrison, I apologize. She's the executive director at the Reparations Stakeholder Authority of Asheville. I previously invited all of you to come. I know a couple of you have RSVP'd, a couple of you can't make it, but please consider this a reminder, and that actually goes for everybody. It's open to the public. And in closing, I'd just like to commend the commissioners for your efforts on furthering fair housing, and we stand ready to assist in any way we can as an association. Thank you for your time this evening, and I hope to see you all Thursday.
All right, thanks, Matt. Anna Alsbrook?
Good evening, Commissioners. I am from Mountain True and the Plastic Free WNC Coalition. I did a quick audit. I walked here maybe like a quarter mile, half a mile, and just wanted to count the number of single-use plastic items I found on the ground. There were 7 bags, 2 bottles, 3 cups. You know, in my time at Mountain True, I've done a lot of river cleanups, and plastic is the thing we pull out the most. I'm a bit tired of having to do that, so I appreciate y'all bringing it up today as part of a proclamation. I'm pretty disgusted at how pervasive single-use plastics have come. The word's finally getting out about how harmful microplastics are. We're learning that they're really harmful to the environment, to humans, to wildlife, and that these things never biodegrade. They merely break down into smaller and smaller pieces till we can no longer see them. When they do make it to the landfill, they take up an inordinate amount of space, threatening its lifespan. And when that runs out, where will the next landfill go? Buncombe County doesn't have much more space, much less affordable space just for trash. We at Mountain True, we've been sampling for microplastics for 4 years now. And what I can say is the amount that we're seeing per sample has doubled in that short period of time. They wind up in our bodies, and we're ingesting them at alarming rates. Research is showing their links to asthma, stroke, heart attacks, implications toward Parkinson's and dementia, reproductive issues, as well as obesity. Local governments should have the right to regulate waste, especially hazardous waste, but the North Carolina General Assembly took that away from us last fall. I applaud the county for taking this step in the right direction by dedicating Earth Day around plastics and resolving to look for ways to reduce its consumption and use. We need less plastic, and the way to do that is through policy, and this is the right thing to do. Thank you for your courage.
Thanks, Anna. Julie Nelson?
Chair and County Commissioners, my name is Julie Nelson, and I'm trying to understand why you want to ban short-term rentals in our county. The reasons that are being given are affordable housing, housing shortage, health and safety, and nuisance complaints. But in researching these things, what I found is that banning short-term rentals won't solve the affordable housing problem. Actually, the affordable housing problem has been here for many, many years. It's been an issue in our county for as long as I've lived here, which is 30 years. It long predates the advent of actual short-term rentals coming into our community. So it didn't cause it, and it's not going to solve it, because even converting short-term rentals to long-term rentals, those rents will be at market value and at market rates long-term, and they will not fall within the affordable housing guidelines. As far as the housing shortage, only 3 to 4% at most of the current housing in Buncombe County are short-term rentals. They're not the cause of the housing shortage, nor will banning them solve it. There are many new housing units under construction or in the approval stages. As far as health and safety concerns, they are very minimal regarding short-term rentals, with only 2 open cases in Buncombe County. We don't, you're not ever saying what that is in relation to long-term rentals. You have to compare both, and that's the problem with this, is that I really think we need to take a pause on this, not make any decisions at all in 2024, but stop the decision-making process because we don't have enough data. As far as nuisance complaints, there are policies already in place to address noise, parking, or trash issues, regardless of the length of tenancy. Banning short-term rentals will harm residents like myself who depend on short-term rental income for my livelihood. And offering a grandfather clause is not sufficient. It doesn't address the permanent devaluation of my property rights and of the value of my property. Many of you yourselves stay in short-term rentals when you vacation, and if you don't, then you know a neighbor, a friend, or a family member that does. They are here to stay, and 37% of stays in our county are in short-term rentals, so you will only, banning them will harm our economy by steering tourist dollars out of Buncombe County into neighboring counties. I urge you, please don't make any decisions on banning short-term rentals until maybe 2 years from now when enough data has been compiled and you can analyze it and see what the economic effects are. Thank you.
Ken Brame. And Ken, I'm going to ask you to come up when I read this proclamation. So if you'd like to make some comments then, that would be fine. Why don't you just wait? I'll ask you to, yeah, I'll call you in a minute. All right. Stay tuned. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Peter Thorworth. I want to bring to your attention or ask you to give some thought to a major intersection, and that is where New Leicester meets Mount Carmel. So to help you picture that, there's an Ingles store on the right, there's a Sonic on the left, there's a diner. Everybody's nodding. You can picture it. As you probably know, fairly recently, 3 or 4 major apartment complexes have gone up right around that intersection, which is fine. That would be the Villages, Village West, the Villas at Fallen Spruce, and then a variety of single-family homes and another apartment complex whose name I don't know. It's behind the Citizen Bank that's on the other corner there. The 2 things I'd like you to give some thought to, one is there's no way for a pedestrian to cross at that exit or at that intersection without risking their life. There's no painted lines, there's no walk signal, there's nothing like that. So all the people in all these apartments that might want to walk over to Ingles don't have that option unless they want to risk their lives doing so. Hopefully, maybe as a result of the fact that the sidewalk is being built along New Leicester, maybe that'll somehow lead to, or maybe it's already in the plans, for some kind of pedestrian facilitation at that corner, but I'd like you to give it some thought. There's a lot of people that live right there who would like to be able to walk from one side to the other. The other thing is, pardon me, relevant to that area, but in a completely different way, and that is there are a great number of large trucks that drive up and down New Leicester. And as many small communities have, I'd like the council to give some thought to looking into it's called engine braking restricted. In other words, they call it jack braking or compression braking, that kind of thing, because all the people that live in that area that I'm talking about, day after day and night after night, have to hear boom, 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 because all these trucks are using that kind of braking instead of using their brakes, and it gets very loud. That is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Appreciate everyone who took time to come out and for public comment this evening. We've got a couple of different presentations. The first is a recognition of a Line Worker Appreciation Day. I think Jennifer Bennett from Duke Energy is here, and which commissioner? Amanda Edwards is going to present this item.
Buncombe Proclamation, Line Worker Appreciation Day. Whereas on April 10th, 2013, a resolution was passed in the United States Senate to recognize April 18th annually as National Line Worker Appreciation Day. And whereas the profession of the electrical line worker is steeped in personal, family, and professional tradition. And whereas line workers are often first responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to make the scene safe for other public safety officials and to expedite the return of vital electrical power to our communities. And whereas these brave men and women work with thousands of volts of electricity, high atop power lines, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, risking and sometimes losing their lives to keep electricity flowing. And whereas line workers are often faced with dangerous conditions, far from their families, as they work to construct and maintain energy infrastructure throughout the state of North Carolina and the United States. Whereas line workers must use their technical knowledge, physical strength, and ingenuity to achieve success in challenges they face every day. And whereas Buncombe County thanks these skilled and heroic line workers who brave hurricanes, ice storms, snowstorms, floods, and other natural disasters to maintain our community's energy grid. Now therefore, Buncombe County Board of Commissioners hereby resolves and declares Thursday, April 18th, 2024, as Line Worker Appreciation Day in Buncombe County, signed by Brownie Newman, Chair of the Commissioners. Thank you all so much for the important work that you do. I think folks often forget just how important it is, how dangerous it is, and that you're literally risking your lives to keep our power on during storms and natural disasters, and we are truly grateful for the courageous work that you do for each of us. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Edwards, and thank you everyone who came out this evening for this. We appreciate all of you. All right, the next item is recognition of Telecommunicator Week. And Commissioner Moore is going to help us out with this item.
Right. National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. Whereas Public Safety Telecommunicator Week honors the dedicated individuals who serve as the lifeline between the community and emergency responders, ensuring timely and effective response to all emergencies. And whereas 911 dispatchers play a crucial role in public safety, providing vital communication and coordination services that are essential for the well-being of our community. And whereas these unsung heroes demonstrate dedication, professionalism, and resilience in their roles, often working long hours under high-pressure situations to ensure the safety and security of our residents. And whereas it is important to recognize and express appreciation for the invaluable contribution of 911 dispatchers who serve as the first point of contact during emergencies and play a pivotal role in coordinating response efforts and saving lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of April 14th through 20th, 2024, to be National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week in honor of the dedicated individuals whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and community members safe. We extend our deepest gratitude to all our 911 dispatchers for their unwavering commitment to public service and their indispensable contributions to safety and the well-being of our community. Brownie Newman, Chair of Buncombe County Board of Commissioners.
Come on.
I'd just like to thank y'all very much for this. It's really meaningful, especially, nationwide dispatching crisis. So these people definitely putting the work in, the dedication to the job. I would like to say, Michael Sally is our fire and medical operations manager, and Shayna Harris here is our assistant telecommunicator supervisor on one of the shifts. But she also does if any of you have ever been up or looked at the Dispatcher Week photos that we post, she's the main coordinator for that. So she starts, January, working on this week. So we're really proud of her and the other telecommunicators that help her during this week. So we're proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for what you do. We appreciate you very much. All right, we also have a proclamation on the community campaign to reduce single-use plastics in Buncombe County. I'm going to ask Ken Brame to join me for this one. And Anna, if you want to come back up, that's fine too.
Have Anna come up also.
Whereas Earth Day is April 22nd, and this year's global theme is Planet versus Plastics, which calls for widespread awareness of the health risks of plastics and a rapid phase-out of all single-use plastics. And whereas single-use plastic products, including extended polystyrene, styrofoam, are disposable and not designed for repeated use and are typically produced from petrochemicals. And whereas a significant volume of single-use plastics is discarded and becomes litter found in rivers, roadways, and other public and private areas throughout Buncombe County and its environs. And whereas a 2022 waste characterization study indicated that over 14% of Buncombe County's landfilled residential waste is non-recyclable plastic. And whereas single-use plastic bag litter blocks storm drains, becomes entangled in treetops, and fouls public areas. And whereas single-use plastic litter can degrade into microplastics that threaten the environment and public health and have been detected in the French Broad River. And whereas reducing the use of single-use plastics in our community will bolster the county's solid waste operations and extend the lifespan of our local landfill. And whereas single-use plastic reduction will safeguard community health and well-being. And whereas Buncombe County is dedicated to reducing its carbon footprint, improving the quality of its French Broad River waters, and maintaining a clean and healthy environment. And whereas Buncombe County is dedicated to developing equitable, sustainable procurement processes. And whereas Buncombe County is dedicated to reducing single-use plastic consumption by replacing such products with alternatives where feasible and beneficial. And whereas Buncombe County is dedicated to encouraging its employees to use reusable products and practices as part of a broader strategy to reduce plastic waste and protect the environment. And whereas Buncombe County is currently providing information and resources through the Less Plastic Buncombe campaign to encourage residents to reduce their single-use plastic consumption. Now, therefore, the Buncombe County Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Less Plastic Buncombe Month in Buncombe County, North Carolina, and urge all governmental entities, private businesses, and residents to forego or limit their use of plastic bags and other single-use plastics and expanded polystyrene, styrofoam, wherever and whenever possible. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of Buncombe County to be affixed this 16th day of April, 2024. Brownie Newman, Chair of the Buncombe County Commission. Ken, and thanks for being here. Appreciate you all.
I just want to take a moment to thank the commission, Brownie, the city, the county staff. Leroy is just amazing, Mr. Leroy, in making that happen. And I want to thank you guys for your solid support. I know you were on board to try to ban plastic bags before that was taken away from us by the state legislature. And we appreciate you doing everything you can to help us move forward to reduce plastic. Thanks again.
And on Monday, April 22nd, representatives from the county will be joining with members from the community and other local governments to on Earth Day to further help educate the community about opportunities to reduce use of single-use plastics. So look forward to participating in that with other local partners. All right, the last item under presentations is fair housing. And Commissioner Parker Sloan's going to present this, and I think Matt Cable is here to help us out as well. Okay, great, thanks, Matt.
Preceding the proclamation, which we appreciate the board considering tonight, we're just going to provide a brief overview of fair housing. We're using this as an opportunity to provide some community education and really promote the fair housing activities that we're undertaking locally. So there is a presentation, and I'll jump right in. Tonight, we'll just do a quick review of what the National Fair Housing Act includes, discuss discrimination protections that are provided under the Fair Housing Act. We also wanted to present information to the public about the ways in which a person who may have experienced discrimination in housing can seek a complaint and resolution on that. And then provide a brief review of Buncombe County's recently adopted Fair Housing Plan, which is an administrative work plan for us in promoting fair housing within our community. So the National Fair Housing Act, which is Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, protects people from discrimination in housing. That's whether they're renting or buying a home, and if they're seeking any kind of housing assistance. The protected classes include individuals who have a disability, protections for race, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, color, national origin, religion, and family status, including households with children. In a community the size of Buncombe County, and considering our existing housing market constraints, community development staff remain concerned that discrimination is likely being underreported given the lack of awareness of fair housing protection within our community. In fact, since 2021, the North Carolina Human Resources Commission, who receives complaints at the state level, has noted only 5 complaints within Buncombe County. To increase awareness, community development staff are working collaboratively with the county's CAPE department, with the Equity and Human Rights Office, and as well with the county library and other departments and divisions to promote and spread information about fair housing protections within our community. One of the main points that we are trying to share publicly with our community are the avenues in which you may issue a complaint if you feel that you have been discriminated against in any of those protected classes. In the event you have experienced housing discrimination anywhere in Buncombe County within the last year, you may reach out to the county's non-discrimination coordinator. The email for that position is listed here, as well as the phone number. There is also an online complaint form where you can begin a complaint related to housing discrimination. The non-discrimination coordinator does not necessarily directly process and investigate the complaint, but will help in making the appropriate referrals to the North Carolina Human Resources Commission, and that entity will ultimately investigate the complaint and seek to provide resolution where the complaint is determined to be valid. Buncombe County Community Development staff do intend to follow those complaints, and we request the records of complaints that are received so that we understand what kind of discriminatory practices may be happening within our jurisdiction. That is one of the activities that we will undertake. There are a number of other activities that are outlined in the Buncombe County Fair Housing Plan. What this plan does, again, it's an administrative work plan, so it outlines by quarter the activities that community development staff will undertake to further fair housing choice within our community. This plan really seeks to identify the impediments to fair housing choice. So if you'll recall the analysis of impediments that was created a few years ago, it documents those impediments. It seeks to recommend the activities that we would undertake to further fair housing. And then it also documents the process I just described about submitting complaints locally regarding discrimination in housing. So I have included a copy of that document in the materials for you tonight. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about our plan or any other questions that you may have about fair housing.
I'll ask one. Matt, is there, I guess, pro bono legal services out there in the world for folks that need help with this?
So there are certain individuals that could advocate in the event that you had received discrimination, issue under any of the protected classes. It is a legal, it's a law. But really, the best avenue forward is through the Human Resources Commission at the state level. They are your advocate. They're going to conduct the investigation. And I would mention, of the 5 complaints that have been received, 1 was determined to be valid and 1 remains under investigation. So not all complaints are necessarily determined to be valid complaints, but they do seek to assist in resolution.
All right, great. And so now Commissioner Sloan will present the presentation.
Buncombe County Fair Housing Month. Whereas the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development recognizes National Fair Housing Month each April, and whereas Title VII of the Fair Housing Act, enacted in 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation, ending housing discrimination, and to guarantee equal housing choice and opportunity as a right for all. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits all to affirmatively furthering fair housing choice in their communities. And whereas more than 56 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists in many forms, denying individuals opportunities to thrive. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are contradictory to the common sense of decency and fairness, and whereas Buncombe County promotes diverse, inclusive communities to provide a strong social fabric and foundation for achieving better educational, employment, health outcomes, and to build wealth to pass along to future generations. And whereas Buncombe County is committed to the democratic principles of non-discriminatory free choice, the mission and intent of the Fair Housing Act to provide fair, equitable, and equal housing access and opportunities for all, and encourages residents and prospective residents of Buncombe County to know their rights and responsibilities under the law and share in this effort. Now therefore be it resolved that Buncombe County Board of Commissioners hereby resolves and declares April 2024 as the Buncombe County Fair Housing Month to continue its commitment to fair housing for an inclusive community, promote appropriate activities by private and public entities, and advocate for and provide equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Buncombe County. This the 16th day of April 2012.
All right, thanks, Parker, appreciate it. All right, thank you, Matt. You're supposed to give it to someone. Okay. All right, we do not have any public hearings this evening, so we come next to the county manager's report.
Yes, sir, and I'd like to ask Rocio Quintero and Tammy Stewart and Aaron if they will step up and just talk a little bit about our language access line. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. We are here to present on the language access plan. There's a presentation to go along with this. Our team is comprised of Buncombe County employees, also along with a community partner organization. And we are myself, Rocio Quintero, Aaron Biduri, Tammy Stewart, and we also have Jonathan Palma from our community partner, Poder Emma, and Rocio Albiter could not be here with us, but we are the collaborative for the language access plan for the county. And it all began with the pandemic. It brought and highlighted the need for improved language services. As a result, there is currently a nationwide movement to enhance language services across government at the federal, state, and local levels. Buncombe County is required to comply with Title VI and with Executive Order 13166, which mandates that people with limited English proficiency must have meaningful access to programs and activities that receive federal funding. Meaningful access is defined as a language assistant that results in accurate, timely, and effective communication at no cost to the individual with the limited English proficiency needing assistance. Meaningful access denotes that access is not significantly restricted, delayed, or inferior as compared to programs or activities provided to English proficient individuals. In early 2023, CAPE, along with Poder Emma, received a $25,000 grant offered through the Institute of the Studies of the Americas and the Building Integrated Communities initiative at UNC Chapel Hill. And the Language Access Collaborative was launched. 9 local governments partnered with community-based organizations were selected, including teams from Apex, Buncombe, Concord, High Point, Morrisville, New Hanover, Raleigh, Wilmington, and Winston-Salem. During this time commitment, our team participated in in-person language access summits and monthly virtual workshops and completed regularly assigned activities. We were provided with the opportunity to learn about current language access, best practices, and policies, and hear directly from immigrant leaders and language access practitioners. The ultimate objective is to implement a language access plan for the county. And our goal is to serve as the process document behind the language services policy that was already published in May of 2023. In addition to the production for the language access plan, grant funds in the amount of $25,000 were made available to those who completed the course and all assignments, and it was decided to direct the grant funds to Poder Emma for their many hours of participation and for their anticipated continued work in assisting us in getting the word out around the plan. Our community partner, Poder Emma, bolstered our understanding that community must come first and that to move forward, we must work together, and together we can achieve more. We also conducted survey interviews, and Poder Emma participants suggested that we survey departments in person, and when possible, interpreters were included in the meetings to provide a real life experience. And we have Aaron here.
Yeah. So from the survey, with all the various department heads for Health and Human Services, we determined that the top 3 languages that encountered the most are Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian. That aligns with the invoices that I receive from our multilingual providers that show all the languages that we spend on each month for over-the-phone interpreter services. So we feel confident with the data that we provided that moving forward, we can focus on Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian as our 3 primary languages to try and get materials in those languages. And then as needs arise, we'll keep monitoring it so that we can react.
Also, in moving ahead, we have a timeline that you can see here. Our language liaisons were identified when we began outreach to departments back in the spring of 2023. Because we will not immediately or in the next budget cycle have approval for a countywide position that would oversee language services, we rely on the Equity Office and our designated language liaisons in each department to begin implementation of the plan. Once the plan is published, county members of the collaborative will begin contacting liaisons and scheduling reviews of the plan and assisting in identifying vital documents. According to the Equity Office Director, the Equity and Inclusion Work Group has made space for language access plan subgroups within the accessibility group. We will discuss making this a separate ad hoc group.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rosia. Thank you, Aaron, Tammy, all of you. Thank you so much for here. Appreciate you. Avril, any other items? Okay, great. Okay, there's no items under old business. We do have an item under new business, which is consideration of resolutions to authorize the issuance of general obligation and limited obligation bonds and related matters. And Melissa Moore, Buncombe County Finance Director, is here to present this item.
Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. So this will be the last time I present anything for your action on these bond issuances. So before you this evening are two different resolutions. One is for our general obligation bonds. Our rating agencies have issued a AAA rating, which is the same rating that we've upheld for several years. AAA rating is the highest rating, and they establish a stable outlook for our future. In November of 2022, the voters approved $40 million bonds for affordable housing. This GO bond issuance will be the first of that authorized $40 million at a not to exceed of $17 million. This resolution authorizes the release of a preliminary official statement. This provides disclosures to our capital markets for our investors. This also issues a notice of sale used by our local government commission within our state's treasury office to solicit bids for the sale of these bonds. The second resolution I ask for you to take action on this evening would be for our limited obligation bonds. Our rating agencies have rated this bond issuance at a AA+ with a stable outlook, which is very typical to be one notch lower than your GO bond issuance. The limited obligation bonds are set with a not to exceed amount of $81.5 million. We are allowed to issue less, but not more. The resolution also establishes a reimbursement amount of $26 million to reimburse the capital projects fund for previously spent expenditures on these projects. So the funded projects are for your school capital, maintenance and infrastructure at $54 million, and capital, county capital projects of $17 million and up to $7 million for county vehicles. The resolution also revises our collateral package in our 2015 deed of trust, and it issues a notice of extension for that. The resolution also authorizes the release of the preliminary official statement, again, to provide disclosures to our capital markets. So do you have any questions regarding the two different resolutions? So then I request for the action on the two separate resolutions.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the resolution for issuance of the 2024 general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $17 million.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a resolution, motion for the other resolution?
I move to approve the resolution for issuance of 2024 limited obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $81.5 million.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, we come to board appointments. And the first is the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board.
Motion to approve Paul Detman. I think this is a new appointment for him.
Second.
Paul Detman is a new appointment, and the rest of them are reappointments.
So I'll start with the new appointment of Paul Detman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
And I'll make a motion to reappoint Tony Reed, Brian Dover, Peter Cook, Anna Davis, Steve Newman, Richard Sluter, Joy Moore, Samantha Cole,
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And next, the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee.
Move that we appoint Ellen Morrissey.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, and finally, the Asheville Buncombe Continuum of Care.
I move to approve that we appoint Parker Sloan.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. And we now come to, are there any updates from commissioners on boards and commissions?
I can say we have a very productive early childhood education committee meeting. We kind of have, I guess we put together our tentative recommendations for commission as to which organizations we're going to fund. I think we have a very well thought out and robust list of folks who are willing to step into this space and are really riding through with us on some hard times in the education space. So I'm grateful for all the members who participated and the board members who are troopers about doing what ended up being a 4-hour process overall.
Terrific. Maybe just give a brief update from our Affordable Housing Committee meeting today. So we're going through the applications for the Affordable Housing Services Program, which of course we do annually, and we're developing recommendations which we'll bring to the board for recommendations of funding of various projects focused on construction of new affordable housing as well as other affordable housing related services in the community, and as well as investments of the voter-approved bond funds. So that we also solicit projects for that would be eligible for bond funding through that same process. We look at it all together. So I think the one of the really encouraging things is just there has been this very positive response from the affordable housing building community, and we have very strong projects for consideration this year. So really good projects, so we're diligencing those now. And I think our expectation is we'll have some really strong recommendations to bring forward. The staff also outlined today how the projects that, we're both responding to projects that are being brought to us by other development organizations. And then, of course, we're, as we heard earlier today, some of the updates, we're actively developing some of our own county-owned properties for projects focused on affordable housing. So, there's still a long way to go, and this is where nothing is easy. But, when we look at these really big goals that we set a couple of years ago around construction of new affordable rental units, we committed to building over 1,800 new very affordable rental units in Buncombe County by 2030. Also have an ambitious home ownership goal. There's a very clear pathway to meeting these goals with real projects that, are being planned today. So that's pretty exciting. I would say to not only meet, but potentially exceed those goals on the schedule that we laid out. So there's a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of great work being done to, really significantly increase the construction of new affordable housing in Buncombe County compared to what we have seen pre-approval of the voter bonds, doubling, tripling that amount. So it's exciting to see. All right, any other updates from boards and commissions? Very good. We have a couple of announcements. Let me mention those. On April 23rd at 9 a.m., the county commissioners will hold their budget work session at 200 College Street, first floor conference room in downtown Asheville. May 7th at 3 p.m., the commissioners will hold their briefing meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. May 7th at 5 p.m., the commissioners will hold their regular meeting at 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. We do have a need for a closed session. Mr. Frew, will you mention the purposes of the closed sessions?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Pursuant to General Statute 143, 31811A3, have a matter to discuss of a legal nature regarding a potential settlement of Industrial Commission file number 22-37889, and just need direction from the board on that. That won't take long. Another matter, 143, 318, and 11A6, and that's to consider the qualifications, conditions of appointment or initial appointment of a potential new county public official or employee. And I don't anticipate any direction on that tonight. Not immediately.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to go into closed session for the reasons outlined by Mr. Farouk?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are going into closed session.